questions. And it's my honor to introduce our co-hosts, hand over to them for this first introductory session. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming here this morning. And I, of course, like to acknowledge the Vice President, Ms. Victoria Kwakwa, all the Honourable Ministers of Finance from the respective Pacific Island countries, the Vice Presidents of the World Bank, Governors of the World Bank, and Your Excellencies. I had actually a written speech, but I don't want to give a written speech, especially after the 5 days of talking. I was kind of hoping to have a day's break, but we've got this. And of course, as we know that we all meet again in Suva from tomorrow for the Foreign Finance Ministers meeting. And then, of course, next week on Monday and Tuesday, we have the CAP meeting, which is the climate-related gathering of the Pacific Island leaders in preparation for the climate summit that the Secretary General has also organized in New York. But I'd like to just make a few brief introductory remarks in respect of the role of human capital in the Pacific. I think we all agree around the table that human capital is obviously critical to our countries. You know, it has been said that, you can have the beauty of your country, you can have a wonderful geographical location, but with things like climate change, phenomena like climate change, the beauty of the country can go. If you don't look after your environment, the environment can actually deteriorate. But one thing that you always need is your people. And you need to invest in your people. And there are two aspects to it, and I think sometimes we do tend to relegate this particular capital to the back or to the background, essentially because we sometimes take our human capital for granted. And in a sort of world of where there's growing technology also, there are various challenges in respect of technology creeping into spaces where you previously used to use human capital. Two fundamental aspects of it is, of course, investment in education and health is very, very critical to ensure that you maintain your human capital. I remember reading a few years ago with AIDS spreading in certain parts of certain countries in Africa, where because of the insidious nature of AIDS and the inability to perhaps educate people about it, it wiped out almost a generation of people in certain countries. So those countries actually faced and are still facing enormous problems in terms of filling in the gaps that's required to fill in various positions in the economy. And so we need to be able to understand that too. In Fiji's case, of course, we've had some tumultuous times previously in our constitutional and political landscape. For example, we had two coups in 1987 that saw a massive migration of people, and the beneficiaries, of course, were Australia, New Zealand, and the west coast of North America. And of course, we had, again, interruptions in 2000, which again saw another spate of people actually leaving the country. And what is really critical in order to, and I think a more fundamental issue in respect to retaining people in your country, not having this sort of attrition, is to ensure that you provide the right environment for them. You need to provide the right political, socio-economic, and constitutional environment for them, for everybody to feel equal. On display last week at the World Bank, the ADB meeting, we had a particular session, what we call 30 under 30, where the host country actually gets to have a particular session of the topic of their choice. And we decided some months back to have a 30 under 30. We recognize those young people below the age of 30 and who have done well, and we recognize the top 30. Today, Fiji's population, 50% is below the age of 27. 50%. 70% is below the age of 40. They're very large figures. I was significantly skewed towards the younger end. If you look at a country like Japan, it's significantly skewed to those over the age of 60. Now, in that, of course, there's another story to tell. But we need to be able to, when I talk about building an inclusive society, we need to have this significant proportion of the population having a say in the landscape of your country. And sometimes political leaders, policy makers don't necessarily tap into this knowledge base that exists, don't actually tap into a forum that may actually provide them the opportunity to be able to speak out. So you have to recognize what are your demographics. We, of course, had, like I said, a problem with retention because of socio-political issues. But we have also another issue. Fiji, we all speak the English language. We are taught in the English language. We have very good tradespeople. I don't know if there's anybody here from New Zealand, but when New Zealand had a Christchurch earthquake, we saw a huge number of people from Fiji being recruited as bricklayers, tile layers, joiners, carpenters, plumbers going off to Christchurch. Many of them are electricians. Many of them have not returned because New Zealand also has a shortage of those kind of skill sets. Recently, the Minister for Education in Fiji was lamenting to me about the fact that she has lost a number of teachers in the area of science and maths and physics because New Zealand has a shortage of people in that area. So, of course, New Zealand does offer better salaries than Fiji does. Comparatively, maybe our lifestyle is much better here, but the salary is better there. So they have also gone. So what it means for countries like ours also, we have to be able to look into the training of people and having a whole cadre of people to fill in those gaps. So we at the moment, for example, in the construction industry, just a few weeks ago, and I'm speaking to you quite candidly, about 4 weeks ago, I went to be present at the groundbreaking ceremony of a major manufacturer, and they had hired a local construction company. 99% of all the workers for that construction company is from Bangladesh, on site. We have an unemployment rate of 4.5%. Some would consider it to relatively low. And when you have a younger population, when you have more SIM cards in operation than actual number of people in Fiji, when you have 600,000 smartphone users, the priorities are also changing. Traditionally, the sugarcane farming has been one of the mainstays of our economy. Today, it contributes only about 4 to 5% towards our GDP, but it does employ a lot of people because it's predominantly manual labor, manually driven. And we're trying to get mechanization into the sugarcane industry, but you traditionally have small farmer holdings, 10 acres, 5 acres, 15 acres. And traditionally, if your great-grandfather was a sugarcane farmer, you became a sugarcane farmer too. The young people don't want to do that. So you have an aging farmer population. I was talking to somebody from New Zealand a couple of days ago. They said there may be certain instances like that in the dairy industry too in New Zealand, where the younger generation don't necessarily want to remain in on the dairy farms. So you have a number of factors that can actually have an impact on your human capital development and your ability to align your human capital to the priorities in your economy. So we started a scholarship scheme and on an open, transparent, purely on merit basis. So 75% of all the scholarships, at least that are given, 75 to 80% that are given, are only given towards the area in science. We have a shortage of marine scientists, conservators, land surveyors, town planners, nurses, doctors, engineers. So most of the scholarships are skewed towards that. And we do not necessarily always fill in those positions, but we have to give it priority. If you get one of those, what we call the Toppers Scholarship, the only requirement is you don't have to work for government once you finish, as long as you work in Fiji. If you do want to migrate, you have to pay us the money back, So if you, for example, have done medicine and we paid for you to do medicine at the Fiji National University through the Fiji School of Medicine college, you have to work in Fiji for at least about 7 to 8 years because it's over $80,000 that we're spending on you. So those are the types of mechanisms we put in. So I think just my last point on it, and of course we can talk about it for hours, is that when you do actually focus on health and education, you have to have quality health and education. So one of the challenges that we do have is now to review our entire curriculum in the education system, because it's not necessarily attuned to the modern day requirements, not necessarily attuned to the digital age, and we have seen a deterioration in standards in certain areas, so we need to build capacity, and we hope to work with the World Bank in that respect, in building the capacity in the education system. We have, for example, created the Fiji National University, which is essentially a consolidation of different technical colleges, and we brought it under one university umbrella. And again, I like to offer that university, apart from USP, of course, all of you know about USP, about FNU. And I think there needs to be some regional cooperation in that respect. FNU is more geared towards engineering and the vocational areas. We set up a network of technical colleges in Fiji a few years ago, under the banner of the Ministry of Education, about 13 of those, but we're now taking it away from Ministry of Education and putting under the Fiji National University. So they actually have a seamless education platform. So you can do what you call modular 1 and 2, for example, in plumbing. At the technical colleges, you can go out and work. If you want to come back and do modular 3, 4, and 5, you can do it at the FNU and get a diploma and higher qualifications. The other point is about health. Health is critically important also, as you know. We in the Pacific have a fairly high rate of NCDs. We love our sugar. We love our food. And I think that's leading to a huge problem. We are mooted to have one of the highest rates of diabetes in Fiji in the world. And that's a big problem. So building capacity in your health system is critically important. We went out on a limb. We worked together with the IFC, the World Bank, and decided to have a public-private partnership with one of the hospitals just down the road from here, in Lautoka, in the city of Lautoka. And the reason why we chose Lautoka was because it's close to Nadi International Airport to be able to provide linkages for other Pacific Island countries. Because now, and through the tender process, Aspen Hospital Australia has actually won the tender. They will start running the hospital from July. We had certain conditions that were imposed, and for example, they were to provide certain procedures that currently aren't available in Fiji. So for example, if one of us, God forbid, actually has a heart attack now, there's not a single Fijian doctor that can carry out open heart surgery. Not one. Now, so one of the conditions of this engagement with Aspen is that they need to provide that 24/7. So that will, of course, be made available not just to Fijians, but other Pacific Islanders. And various other procedures. Part of the condition also is that they need to build a new wing at the existing hospital. They have operating theatres that will also be used for learning purposes for this Fiji School of Medicine, and also the University of Fiji that also is a medical school. So I think it's critically important to place emphasis on the medical side of things, not just curative aspects of medicine, but also preventative measures of medicine. And we need to start early on in the piece, in your schools, in your primary schools, in your high schools, to be able to ensure that we have a healthy population so they can contribute meaningfully to the development of human capital, indeed the development of the economy. So with those few introductory remarks, I'd like to thank you once again, and now I invite Victoria to say a few words. Thank you.